What's up everyone, Steven here from techmaker.tv. In this episode, we're going to be doing another exploration of aleph.im, and specifically we're going to be looking at how we can query data back from the network in different ways. This is basically just going to be another exploration video, and it's part of the building a chat series in a way, because we're going to need to build out some new data structures in order to add some new features. So I'll definitely be setting this up as a separate video, but I'll link to it over there as well. So I want to start by just kind of clicking around the GitHub over here. So we started this whole Aleph adventure in this simple dApp, and I probably just scrolled past it. Here we go. Yeah, simple dApp. And if we look in the source and we look at this app.view, I'm going to scroll down until we find the get messages function. So right here you can see we're doing this await post get post, and we're telling it the channel, I believe, is this argument. Then we have this refs, and then so on and so forth. So what I'm curious to find out is how can we use different parameters to sort of post to the network and then pull things back, because that's going to inform us on what tools we have available to actually create different data models. So we're going to jump around a little bit here. So let's go to explorer.aleph.im, and I keep pronouncing that different ways. I apologize. I think it's Aleph, but it reads like Aleph to me, so it keeps coming out like that. So first of all, let's look at the different messages that are coming across. So we have these aggregate, we see post here. I think there's another type. If we maybe if we view all and kind of click through a couple of pages, we'll see it, maybe not. We can also see on the right over here, I believe this is the channel. So if we go over to aleph.im and click on developers, and then let's just look at the documentation here. So the documentation isn't super user friendly right now, in my opinion, but that's okay. We can get a few things out of it. So essentially, whenever you post a message to the network, you have a type of message, which can be post, aggregate, or store. So you kind of have to look at this like there's, I guess my understanding is you have sort of two kind of top level areas. So you have the type, you have the channel, the time, and then you have the actual sender and the chain, so on and so forth. And that's sort of up here in this top level. Then you have this content, which is going to be JSON data, I think. And then you have inside of here a hash for the actual item, which we'll look at and see kind of what that is. Then you have the actual content. So when we've been posting messages like chats, that's going to go, like the actual content of the chat goes into this item content. Then we have an item type and so on and so forth. So you can kind of read through that. It doesn't tell you, I mean, it tells you the right stuff. It's just a little bit sort of technical, not too reader friendly. So it would be great to put some examples and stuff in here. In any case, we're not here just to like look at the documentation. So what I've been trying to do is take a look at that and then go read through the code examples and see if I can piece together exactly what all the different options for how we can use this are. So you can see here we have this, if we click back over here for just a second, we have this type, which is either post, aggregate, or store. And this is really excuse me, this is really network specific kind of stuff. So you can see we have post, we have aggregate, and I guess if we scrolled enough we would have storage or store. Then we have the channel, which is showing up here on the right, and the channel says channel of the message. One application ideally has one channel. So I'm thinking, like, let's say our app is called TechMaker Chat or something like that. Then I assume we would put like the channel as TechMaker Chat, and that would help us query stuff that's just particular to our app. So let's go look back over here at the Explorer again. Let's click on, so we've kind of covered, you have the top level type. I think that this thing I'm about to click on is probably actually the hash. And let's not look at an aggregate here. Let's look at a post, because we're going to be working with posts primarily. So just to make sure we're all looking at the same kind of thing. So we've got the actual hash of the message up here, I believe. So if we click over here, I just like to kind of look at exactly what we're dealing with. So I think maybe this is the item hash at the top level. Not perfectly obvious to me. We can see that we have the message type in here. So the way that I'm starting to think about this is you've got, like, if you've done sort of traditional database development, you have the channel, which over here is, in this case, is foundation. The message type thing is not something we really want to mess with. I mean, I think if you're posting, it's a post. Like, we're not going to try to do anything with that. That's something that's Aleph system specific. The channel seems to be, in my opinion, sort of like, if your application had a database, you would name that database something. That's where this is. So, like, for instance, TechMaker Chat could be the channel, I think. So if you look at what other things we need, if we're going to essentially think of this as a database or data store, it's more similar to something like Mongo than an SQL database. But just to kind of work on the terminology here, the type, I think the type could potentially be used as like the table name or like the document name if you were in Mongo or something like that. And then obviously the content would be the actual content of the object, right? So like if we had our chat, we could have like messages would be one, right? And so like we could post to to that table in a way. I'm just kind of working out my idea for this. Then the ref, I'm not 100% sure how to tie all this together, because you typically, like, I don't know how you actually would query the content. And what I mean by that is, like, in a table, you would often want to query back by some foreign keys and stuff. So this ref gives us the opportunity to do like one foreign key is sort of how I understand it. Like if you wanted to have like a blog post that has many comments and then you want to pull back all the comments that pertain to that blog post, you could do that here, because you could say this is a comment and you have like the type is comments, then you have over here the channel is TechMaker blog or whatever. And so you would say, give me all of the comments for a TechMaker blog where the ID is the hash or ID or whatever of the blog post I'm looking at. So that would work. I'm not 100% sure how you would do like a many-to-many relationship. I mean, I guess you could take, the ref of one side of it and then put the other IDs in the content itself. That doesn't seem very efficient. So in any case, I'm just thinking out loud. We're going to kind of jump into some actual code here. But I think we've kind of covered most of what all is in here. The other thing I wanted to point out is back over in the JavaScript. So if we look up at the actual top level again, and let's come down here and look for Aleph.js. So this is kind of how I typically learn how things work nowadays. Like I actually just go read the source code. So I was looking in here inside of an API, and then if we go to posts, so we have this. So effectively, I'm going to have to do something annoying and go back up in a new tab over here. And then let's go back to the example we were looking at. Where is that again? It's like really hard to find stuff when you're scrolling live looking at it. It's funny. Simple dap. Okay. So we want to look again at app view. So I want to make sure that I explain where this comes from. So we have this post, and then you have get post right here. Post is coming from where we're importing aggregates, posts, store, so on and so forth from Aleph.js. So we're sort of destructuring. So in some of my videos, you'll have like import aleph.js or whatever. And so you would start off with aleph.post. So just so that it's clear. So post is actually being destructured and brought in like that. So my thinking is we can look at this get post function, how it's actually defined, and see what other things we can pass in here. So let's have these open side by side. So we're passing in first chat, and then we have this JSON object that goes in as the second argument. So if we come back over here to get posts, you have types, which is the first argument, which makes me think you could technically pass in an array, but we're just passing in one there. And then we have here this JSON object, which is essentially setting a bunch of defaults. So we have the API server, which is the default, and we're setting a pagination to 200, page equals 1. So those are things we could pass in if we wanted to like loop through a bunch of data. Then we have refs, we have addresses, we have tags, which I'm not familiar with, and we have hashes. So it looks like we could do a number of things here that are interesting. So I'm thinking what this means is that we could actually pull back posts that were made by a particular person based on their address. So like maybe it'd be interesting to see like everything that I've posted, so I could just pass in my address and pull that back. I think we can combine these. So if we wanted to say like I want to only see stuff for that I've posted related to this particular type, that might work. So, and then you can see here we're basically just kind of going through each one of those parameters, formatting them, and then we're running a GET request against the API server that we give it. So I think, and if we look back over here, this kind of makes sense. So we're saying the ref in this case is this chat room, and the type is chat. So what I was saying is, let's say that we have a slightly more complicated architecture where it's not just literally just a chat room. Let's say that we have like, I'm going to do a video where we actually go through the real data model here, but let's say that you have like different chat channels. And again, like a lot of this terminology gets very overloaded in this context because we're using channel and things like that are actually part of the network. So I got to work on that a little bit. But let's say you have like a chat channel or a feed or whatever you want to call it. And so you put that there, and then maybe that has an ID and you put that there, but you can also pass in like, you know, I want to see only my post or something. So maybe you could pass in your address or something like that. So I think I'm going to stop this video here and do a part 2 where we actually do some code exploration in the terminal. I know this may have been a little bit boring, but I kind of wanted to just walk through kind of how I'm researching this and kind of talk through all the different things we could do based on the code that I'm seeing. So with all of that said, I think I'm going to go ahead and stop, and then we'll jump into something a little bit more interactive in the next video. And then we'll follow that up with actually talking about our data model that we want to build out for this new chat thing, which is going to be a lot more like a Discord or a Slack or something when we're done. So you're going to be able to create channels, join channels. Theoretically, if I can figure out how, we'll have private channels somehow where you have to request membership and be approved and stuff. How to do that in a decentralized way on Aleph is an interesting problem. So I'm kind of thinking about it. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do it yet. But anyway, so that's where we're headed. We may actually kind of build out a rough version of all of it and then kind of start back from the beginning, do it in Electron and do a full like desktop app with a really nice UI. Probably going to do that regardless, but I don't know exactly where I'm going to stop with this current series. So anyway, if you made it this far, I appreciate you watching, and I'll talk to you in part 2 of this.